So yeah, the other day I was looking at South America and looking at some of the cities there, and I found some things that shocked me, and I thought maybe I should make a video just talking about it. Uh, so yeah, I'll just move around the map in this video, show you some stuff in Europe and North America that I found interesting. For example, in Central America, I found this shape very interesting. The Central American countries, just like if you guys don't know the history, there was like in the 1820s, a lot of the mestizos, because this was all like the Spanish Empire here, all the way up to like basically this whole coast, even like California, you see the Spanish Empire, and then Napoleon was defeated, and a lot of the mestizos here, right, in the Spanish Empire were like, hey, why don't we just like not be the underclass of the nobility, just because they outnumbered the nobility, like the Spanish purebloods. So they just took power. They just started these wars and so-called independence wars and cut up these countries. So there would be this like new mestizo elite, spread out, and they cut divided up these countries. And they used to have these like these super strict caste systems up until recently, where it was like the more European blood you have, you were the elite, you were the upper class, you ran these countries, and that's kind of stopped now. You go to a lot of these countries and like their politicians and ruling class are like brown now, whatever. But that's very recent. And let's see this. So, and apparently there's a lot of wars like between Colombia and Venezuela, like 100 years ago, and then 50 years ago, like Ecuador and Peru and Bolivia against Argentina, like real wars. Argentina and Bolivia, Paraguay. Bolivia and Paraguay had this like war, and Paraguay won the war and took like all this territory over here, um, which is so funny because Bolivia has all this like Amazonian forest that's just empty, and people don't realize how big Bolivia is. Bolivia is like if you put like Switzerland on this map, it would be the size of just like this word Bolivia, like the font size. That's it. That's the size of Switzerland. So Bolivia is like a gigantic. It's landlocked. This is crazy. Apparently, like this whole coast right here that Chile has used to be part of Bolivia, and then Chile and Bolivia went to war, and Chile won the war, and they just took this whole coast, which is so stupid because it's like all just desert here. It's like worthless desert. Um, so yeah, Chile just like won the war and grabbed it. It was kind of sad for Bolivia, right? They lost their coast, but so yeah, a lot of these like mestizo, newly independent countries went to war with each other, which is hilarious. But Central America, I was staring at this map here or this geography here, and I found it interesting. For example, the fact that the Panama, I always thought Panama on the Pacific side would be facing the west, right? Because the Pacific's on the west. No, it's actually facing the east. Like Panama City is facing the east and not the west. The west is like mountains. The west of Panama City's mountains, which surprised me. And this is also this weird shape, right? Look at Panama. It's this like weird like wavy S shape, and you got the Darien Strait here. Let's look at this in satellite mode. You got the Darien Strait, which looks completely like unpopulated. I honestly, it looks like the Atlantic, Pacific side is the populated part. The Atlantic side looks also just pretty abandoned. So it's pretty big. Look, kind of goes all the way up to here. So it looks like a big country. This with one major city, but let's go over here. You got what is this? This is Costa Rica, right? You got Costa Rica with like no natural harbors on their Atlantic side, but on the Pacific side they have interesting geography. San Jose's in the mountains, which is cool. Um, you got Nicaragua, which is huge compared to the other two countries you looked at. You got two big lakes. You got Nicaragua, then you got Honduras, which is very mountainous. It looked like it has some Pacific part. El Salvador's small. Apparently, these two countries had like a huge war and have huge beef with each other. Honduras and El Salvador. El Salvador, I would consider a city state. We're in a country, regardless of the size. If everything's just in one city, the whole economy, military, everything, everyone lives in one city, and the rest outside that major city is just poor rural areas, I consider that a city state. So El Salvador, I consider a city state. So I looked into it, and everything just San Salvador is everything there. Everything else is poor, and it's a small country, so it would make sense. So Guatemala is interesting too. It would make sense if they didn't have this northern part. It made more sense if this northern part was part of Belize. Honestly, there might have been a war here, and Guatemala won the war and just took this part. I don't know, but Guatemala has this weird like box sitting on top of it. The rest of it, yeah, looks cool. It has look at this. It has some of the Atlantic, mostly on the Pacific though. And then it doesn't make sense. Honestly, the placements of these cities don't make that much sense. I'm pretty sure when the mestizos in like the 1820s took over, that was like the peak. Like right before they took over, that was pretty much the peak of a lot of these countries. And since then, it's just been downhill. It's just been getting worse. So a lot of these like South American countries you look into, and it's like the nice stuff is all like built in this 1600s, 1700s, whatever, even before by the Spaniards. And then since then, nothing's nice has been done, which is pretty hilarious. You'll see Bolivia's really like that. Peru's also like that a lot. A lot of these countries, Colombia, is most of it was just that's the livable nice parts are all the 400-year-old parts, and everything that they've done since is just trash. Um, so yeah, Spanish were really good with their urban planning and their placement. So I don't know why they place these cities here. Probably for a reason, right? Maybe defensibility. Who knows? But mountains don't seem like a great place to build stuff. So yeah, and also something that surprised me is the size. Mentally, I always thought the Gulf of Mexico, right? I always thought it was smaller. I didn't know it was like this shape and it's huge. Plus Cuba, right? You have the what's it called, the Keys right here. Go down and you have Cuba, and then straight up you just have the Yucatan Peninsula here. So I didn't know it was like this enclosed, the whole Gulf. It has two entrances, right? It has this northern and southern entrance, and you got like Cuba right in the middle of the entrance. Look how enclosed it is. Well, borderline, it looks like a lake to me. This Florida Keys are wrapped down here. So you got this Gulf, and then let's look at say most of the video. Let's talk about South America now, because that's what I was looking like a few days ago. I was spent like an hour just looking at like cities in Bolivia. Bolivian geography is very interesting because it's huge. Like I said before, it's a huge country. It doesn't look like it. It's like on the equator. It's very close to the equator. So this is like easily bigger than Germany, France, any European country. And the geography is interesting because this whole part here, you see, on like the western southwest, this is just desert. We're talking the pyramids, Egypt, sand dunes, this whole area here, and honestly, this whole coastline. So all the way from like northern Chile here to northern Peru, all the way here. This entire coast is straight up sand dunes. People don't really know that. It doesn't rain at all. It's just full on desert. A lot of people don't know that about this part of South America. That it's desert, like because right over here, right, you have the gigantic Amazon jungle, or over here, and a lot of the Amazon jungle, like for example, this whole southern part of Colombia. So south of this mountain range is just jungle, and it's very not populated at all. You have of course some indigenous tribes, whatever, but there's no like cities. All the cities are on the coast, for example, here, and in the mountain ranges. That's it. But the jungle. Let's look at the map. See, this is jungle here. Let's look at some pictures. Sure. I don't know. These are some pictures, and let's close this. Let's go back to the map mode. Okay, so this is jungle. Also, this part of Peru. Apparently, this city here, Quitos, is the biggest city in the world that has no connection, a road connection at all. Everything, like to go in and out, you have to go with a boat or with a plane, right? So it's like the biggest city in the world with no roads connected to it. And this, like I said, all of this is jungle. So anything that's and this whole coastline here is desert, and these mountain ranges, which is obviously you can see, is like huge Andes mountain ranges. The biggest mountains in the world, all the way to Cusco and Machu Picchu somewhere here, and whatever. It's interesting also geographically. I would say it's similar to like kind of like a Switzerland. It's interesting because this like dry air from the Pacific, it meets the humid air of the jungle right in the mountains, right? And makes the clouds just drop all their water. So here in the mountains, there's a lot of flooding all the time, and a lot of people die and landslides, and it's very there's like typhoons all the time. So rain is insane in this whole mountain range, this Andes mountains between like Ecuador and Bolivia. So a lot of people, and that is this area too. So this is like Bolivia is a very underpopulated country, so it's not like India where there's just like infinity people everywhere. No, it's not like it's a very small population. It's like basically all the urban centers. There's a handful of cities, and Bolivia's like South Africa has multiple capitals. They're all on mountain range, right? Like Sucre, I think, is a capital city, some sort of capital city, and then La Paz is like another capital city, Cochabamba as well. So these are all in the mountains, and these mountains, it rains a lot, and there's the gigantic mountains. So the road connections are really bad. So a lot of times people just don't drive between these cities; they just take a flight, they take a plane. And and a lot of the population of Bolivia, a couple million are in these like, handful of cities, and then let's say 2 million are in the rural areas. And the rest of the country is just empty. Like over 90% of the country, especially this like northern jungle part and these desert areas, just completely empty. Just most people live in these mountain ranges. Even these mountain ranges are underpopulated. The problem with these urban centers is they're just each urban center has a couple million people. And the Spaniards did plan them correctly. Like the urban planning is great when the Spanish were there, but then like I said, mestizos took over, and it just sits there. And I want to show you some of the urban planning. And it's not just Bolivia thing. Apparently, a lot of South America suffers from the new last 100 years of urban planning, which is a disaster. It's crazy. These like mega slums, never end ocean of concrete, right? And I would say Europe had that. Like Europe was built through monarchies, right? A lot of these places you see, nice places in Italy, were Italy, what in a lifetime, like 80 years ago, was an empire, right? Had colonies and kingdom and king and all this. And since then, yeah, it could have easily happened that a lot of Italy just got wrecked. But no, thankfully we had rules, so the urban planning has been managed, or how do I say, controlled better. So let's say, what should we look at first? I don't know. Let's say Santa Cruz. Okay, so Santa Cruz is one of the biggest cities in Bolivia. It's right outside the mountain range, and it's technically in the jungle. Let's put the map. It's technically in the jungle, right? So a lot of this has been turned into agricultural land where they grow sugarcane and things. And people, this is like hundreds. What is this like? It's probably like 50 kilometers that we're looking at right now. Of just what is this, like sugar plantations or something? It goes on. But let's look at this city, Santa Cruz. So like I said, the Spaniards did correct. This is the Spanish part of the town. You see this right here? This little what's it called? This little square here. This the Spaniards did. This is very nice. Let's look at some pictures. Um, Let me look at find some pictures. Okay, I can't. So let's drop in the guy. Let's do this mode. Okay, so this is like the colonial part of the city. It's not bad. You see greenery, whatever. Go back to layers. Okay, but then the problem is the new Bolivian government in the last 25 years or something decided to not do anything. They just decided to not plan at all and let their urban sprawl go insane. So at least this area's been controlled somewhat. But you see, this is not normal. I don't know. This is like infinity concrete. The sea of concrete is not supposed to be normal. And here I found yesterday these are new developments. So the government just like built these roads and then sold these plots to people. You see, where's the green? Like I know right now it looks like this, but maybe in 10 years it's gonna look like like this. And look at this, bro. Look at this. And you can tell these are like new roads they just built. Look how badly designed, whatever. The point is the government's like, okay, let's just cut up this area like it's a pizza. Oh no. Look at this. And so look, probably this was done like 5-10 years ago, and they're already planting houses, building up houses. These are new roads the government just did. Probably haven't sold the plots yet, of land yet. So I was looking at these areas. Look at this. This is insanity to me. Because it's like, how many people do you have? Like, Bolivia is not like India or Pakistan. You don't have this like explosion of population. So I would wager a lot of these people probably have multiple houses. Like a guy that's built bought this plot of land and built a shack on it. Probably has 7 other shacks in different towns and cities in Bolivia, and it's just excessive. So unfortunately, the resolution on my computer is not loading fast enough. But I want to show you guys this that these are the new urban planning of Bolivia. looks completely apocalyptic. Looks like a nightmare. And you would say, okay, maybe it's just the south part of the city. You see, these are the new roads that they haven't lined up yet. Have we lined up this part yet? I think so. They're just gonna sell off the plots, and in the north, apparently they're doing the same thing. Look at this. You got they built the roads, the dirt roads. They cut up the plots, and now they're selling them. And don't underestimate these distances. These is like over like probably 5 kilometers from here to here, or even more. Oh, well, look at this. I haven't seen this. So for me, this is insanity. Um, they're doing this, and this is the past what 10 years or less. So don't think that this greenery here will be saved. Most likely, the government is going to do this infinity concrete jungle like they do in a lot of other cities. And the thing with South American urban planning, I've noticed, was if they get an area, right, like let's say a rectangle. Let's pretend this is like a canvas. They have a rectangle like this. They're not going to say, okay, the way they look at it is like everything is supposed to be concrete, and they'll create a few islands like this. Like they'll create a little island of a park, and that's how urban planning works in South America, where you have just a sea of concrete and then these small little parks dotted around, and that's it. And in Europe, or the way it's supposed to be done, it's the other way around. It's supposed to be all green. It's all supposed to be parks and greenery and farms and whatever, with little islands of urban development, of housing, residential, some low density areas, some high density areas, whatever. But the point is, they got it in reverse in South America. They have an ocean of concrete with just a few dots of greenery, and plus the roads are very tight. So this is an example. I was looking at Sucre. Okay, this is Sucre. See some pictures. Do we have any nice pictures of the center? No. Where did I find the? I think it was on my phone where I found the pictures of the center. Here, I'll just drop them in. Okay, this is a historic center. This is Spanish did this, right? It's not bad, right? You have these nice little buildings. It's somewhat walkable. Yeah, it's decently walkable. Okay, you got these. Look at this. Got a church here. Okay, it's not bad. This is the main square, maybe. So this is the colonial part the Spanish did. How do I exit from here? Okay. And so this is historic center, and they just sprawled. They just kept sprawling. And like I said, there's no greenery anywhere. This looks like hell to me, complete hell. And oh my goodness, you already see the town, the new government, like plotting these empty roads and selling up plots of land. It's crazy. Thankfully, it's mountainous here, so they can't really. But it doesn't stop them. Look at this. This right now is like green, right? In 10 years from now, it's gonna be all just like a concrete here. So what is this? Oh, look, building up roads, doing stuff. I don't get this. What do they want? Do they want like the whole thing to be ugly, like slums everywhere? Is that their plan? Okay, so La Paz. Let's show La Paz. La Paz is a very interesting city. I'll show this in the 3D effect. Okay, so this is the city of La Paz. I think it has the highest international airport in the world. The city's in a valley. Let's look at the city. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. So this is the city right here. I think this is the main boulevard. This is the downtown, and then you got like the hills, right? You got the hills over here. You got the mountains, and this is very high up. So don't think this is like 1,000 or 2,000 meters above sea level. This is like 4,000 meters above sea level, right? And okay, where's the airport? And what's crazy about La Paz is their airport's on top of the mountain. So you would expect their airport to be like right here on the valley floor, but it's actually where the hell's the airport? Right there. The airport's like right on top of this mountain. Oops. So you got this valley. Oops. And then on this mountain right here on top, you have this airport. Just very interesting that you have. For me, it feels like in this valley. Where's the historic center again? Oh, right there. Historic center's here. It would make more sense for me if they built the city on the plateau, right? Like on this mountain plateau up here, where they built the airport. Like right here would make sense to build the downtown historic center. Whatever. Spanish decided to do it down here for maybe there was a mine. I think that's the situation. There was like a silver mine somewhere here. Who knows? So the airport's on this plateau. It's very high up. I think it's the highest international airport in the entire world. And then you got the mega urban sprawl here. But let me show you an example in Europe. How it's supposed to be done in Europe. What I was talking about before. So you got this city here. These are actually 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then you got this airport. You got a lake here. I think you got another lake here. And you have greenery, of course. So there's no like, if they wanted to, they could have built millions of roads here. Just made this whole mountain housing development, residential, whatever it is. But they said no. You got a few towns. But you see how this village is here? It's all green, and then you have an island of development of housing. But even this, like you see how it's cut up, so you have like greenery that goes even inside the center. That's how it's supposed to look like, guys. I don't know. No one else. South Americans don't understand this stuff. So, so you see how this is? It's like green area here, and let's say someone said, okay, I want to like turn this whole green area into like this slum jungle. No, they just can't. Sorry, it's not gonna happen. And even here, right in the center, it's very green. You see all these trees here? Oops. See all these trees here? This is how it's supposed to look like. So this is like La Paz. This is like Bolivia, except on how it's supposed to be done. So the Bolivians could have done it this way, and instead of the way they did it. And people say, oh, well, look, this is a small place. This is a small like town or whatever it is. Show us. Okay, let's go to a bigger town. Let's go to one of the biggest cities in Germany, right? So millions of people live here. Depends where you live. In Italian it's Monaco, but in English it's I think it's Munich, München. I know in German it's München, but I think it's Munich in English. So So okay, look, you got green areas and you got the city, and it's not. You see all the greenery that like infiltrates inside. You have big areas here, and you have the ring around the city, and this is the downtown, right? Sorry for the latency of the. So this is the downtown city, right? And you see trees everywhere. Where's the airport? I think it's in the north. So you have the city, and then in the north somewhere here you got an airport right there. So right here, you see between the airport and the city, it's not allowed to develop this area. This is all agricultural land, right? You have maybe a few villages dotted around like this village here or something, but this is all agricultural land all the way up until you reach the outskirts of the city. And here it's heavily regulated, so to keep this area, preserve the vibes, right? The atmosphere. So the airport's all the way in the north. Cool. And obviously you have a bunch of lakes, like 20-minute drive from the city. You got this lake here. You got this other lake here. Actually, you have several. Look at this. And you have these nice rolling hills with forests. You have a gigantic forest also here, everywhere actually. And they don't have this. Like I said, millions of people. This is one of the biggest cities in Germany. Millions of people live here, and they could all the way up to, you see all the way here, Rosenheim. This whole thing could be just a sea of concrete if they wanted to. If they control it right here, it would just be like what they have in Bolivia, just slums and never ending, right? But no, they did it correctly, the planning. So also Rome. Let's see, Rome is the biggest city in Italy, millions and millions of people. One of the biggest cities in Europe. Let's check out Rome. So this is Rome, and let's check it out. You got the international airport on the coast where it's flat, and then here you have the mountains, right? And to be fair, 90% of the roofs you could see, like these recent urban developments here, didn't exist 30 years ago. A lot of these new suburbs were built like in the early 2000s and late 2010s or 1990s. So unfortunately, there is a lot of sprawl happening in the outskirts of Rome. But if we compare, it's all relative, right? So if we start comparing this to how they're doing it in the Latin America, it's still controlled. Even the heart of Rome, right? Looks like it's like at least a third green. You got all the way up here. Look at this. This is inside of the city of Rome. And what do you have here? I think it's like for horses. This is a small airport in the center. I think it's just for private jets. This is the river and a water treatment facility. What else? You got a big park. So this is the historic center of Rome. Technically, the historic center is right here. Uh, the Colosseum's down here, and then you got the main train station. I used to live right on this road right here, and you have the Vatican up here, and the river cutting, the city, right? But you see the greenery. You see this? You see this? All the way here, and then of course, um, it's not that big. Rome, like from here to here, is like 5 kilometers, right? So the radius is like 5 kilometers, which isn't huge because we do the radius of like La Paz or other areas is like 20, 30 kilometers, gigantic. So this is Rome, one of the biggest cities in Europe, biggest city in Italy, millions and millions of people. And look, it's very controlled. Yeah, I get it. Ideally, they didn't sprawl like this in the 90s and early 2000s and build all these new suburbs for like yuppies, right? But it did. And at least it's controlled, right? It's not like the end of the world. You got some suburban homes. Let's check them out actually. So these are the new developments. You got this guy that built a house here. Let's check this out. Here's the road. He drives in, parks his car. He got a pool in his backyard. Same with this guy. Yeah, where's his entrance? His entrance is right here. Parks his car, and then he's got his house. And a lot of these are new houses. These are like less than 30 years old. And right here, you see, you have like 8 houses. And what is this? This is like olive trees, right? This in like 10 years, there's gonna be a house with a pool here in 10 years. So it slowly is creeping. Oh, these are new modern mansions or whatever. Look around, you got some farmland. And yes, you're right. This farmland's gonna be bought and like developed into something. Ooh, someone already did that. Like, probably this was farmland like 5 years ago. It's like olive trees right here, and like some guy built it. Like he's got a pool here. Where the hell's the street? Okay, his street's right here actually. So his driveway is pretty long. Look at this. His driveway is like 200 meters long. He wanted his privacy. Maybe he's a politician, who knows? But you got some. So these are the suburbs. These are tiny suburbs, and unfortunately, a lot of that has been going on around Rome. But it's under control. It's not too New Delhi, Mumbai slum situation where it's just never-ending, development where it's done incorrectly. So let's go and check out uh, maybe Bolivia again. Let's measure this. I'm gonna have to end this video soon. Yo, look at this. You guys see the difference? What is this? We should actually check out Lima. Where is Peru? Right over here. So this is desert because it's on the coastline, on the Pacific coast. So, like I said, this is literally just sand dunes and sand and desert, and it doesn't rain here at all. And they have pipes or something that here in the mountains there's like typhoons over here, and there's like flooding, so they just have pipes that bring in all the water. And I'm pretty sure I would consider Peru as a city state, which is hilarious because I think it's like 2,000 kilometers from like the north to the south. It's like it is one of those like equatorial countries that look small on a map but are actually gigantic. And Peru's population is not that big. It's not like I said, India or Pakistan are nowhere near 50,000, 100, not 50, 50 million or 100 million people. I think it's like 20 million people live in Peru. And half of them, like over 10 million people, like 12 million, I think, live in Lima, in the city. So in one city, it is like the most developed city, or the only real city in Peru, because everything else, like Cusco, is like 100,000 people. And let's check out Cusco for a second. So Cusco, and I've been to Cusco actually, and I would consider it almost like a town. It's a very small town vibe situation. Here's the airport, and a lot of them have to travel to Lima for basic things, for basic shopping necessities. So Lima is the only really developed city in the whole country, and they carry the whole economy. Like the whole Peruvian economy is in Lima. The whole financial system, not just that, but also like the military, the whole government and the military, all the power of the country is in Lima, and that's it. and they have to kind of project outside. So if you have like a military base on the border with Ecuador, because there's like a war with Ecuador, I don't know, 2 decades ago. Lima. It's essentially the city state of Lima that was sending soldiers and building stuff on the border. So these towns or villages here, they don't really have any industry or project any situation. They're almost subsidized. A lot of these rural towns and villages are just poor, very poor and underdeveloped, and are almost on welfare, constant welfare from Lima, and they don't really help or project anything. So it's Lima. That's why I consider Peru as a city state. I looked into it, into the situation of Peru, and Peru is a very empty country. I know you see a lot of like these villages being popping up, but it is mostly just 95% of it is just emptiness. Um, and the urban centers are like four. I think it's just Lima, Cusco's an urban center, Arequipa's another urban center, and then I don't know what else. I think, for example, Iquitos and Cajamarca, they're not urban centers. They're like on heavy welfare. There's an urban center here. I don't even know. Who knows? There's probably another one somewhere. But let's look at Lima. So the Spaniards, I'm pretty sure, built the city. Let's check it out where they built the city of. Because Lima was not this. Lima, like 100 years ago, was where the hell is this historic center? Is it this? I think this is it. Okay, this is it. This is the historic center. You see the square right here? There's nothing to note. So this is where I'm pretty sure was it Cortez? Some conquistador built this building here like 500 years ago as a residence, like the viceroy of Peru situation. Because apparently, like half of South America was called the viceroy of Peru, and it was the viceroy, right? Is like the governor, the Spanish appointed governor of the king. Um, and he built this residence here and built a cathedral here, and this is the town or city of Lima. Basically, everything you're seeing right now. That's it. And then it just sprawled infinitely. So, and it's funny because, like I said, the most the nicest part of Peru is this area, and everything outside is basically a hellscape. And except for one exception. So, like I said, this is the new sprawl, which is like told you never ending, it's going forever and ever. The exception to the nice is also this area, I think. Yeah, right here, this area here. This is where like all the rich people just on the coastline bought up expensive properties. Um, but I don't know if you guys remember what I told you guys before, but it's an ocean of cement. Do you see guys the difference between the example I showed in Europe? It's an ocean of cement with a few dots or islands of greenery, and it's not supposed to be like it's the other way around. It's supposed to be. Um, Honestly, this area here is not that bad. You have more parks on average, but still. And you might think, okay, look, this is outside. This is outside the city, just desert, right? No, you're wrong. We start zooming in. These are just like endless like slums. This is supposed to be a mountain. I don't know if you guys could tell. This right here is supposed to be a mountain, and just like slums all over here. And I've seen some pictures, and it's literally looking like Afghanistan. Um, it's really bad. And from the history I've read, these are all illegal. So maybe in the 1990s, this was just like empty mountains, and the poor people just illegally just showed up and started claiming land and building stuff on it without the government permission for like a few decades. The government wouldn't set foot in here, so there'd be no police presence or electricity or water. They just had to fend for themselves. And only recently I've heard the government's actually starting to put utilities and administer these areas as legit and not just as legal settlements or whatever. But this is never ending, never ending. This is crazy, and this is like we're looking at like less than 5% of the city. Um, this is crazy. And like for example, you might think, oh, hey, look, this area looks wide. And like, no, you start zooming in, you start seeing, look, these are favelas. These are just like crazy favelas. Some people might think I'm deranged for talking about like, oh, well, they're poor, right? Okay, well, Yugoslavia was poor in the 90s, and they didn't, they had they didn't destroy their areas, or like they planned them out correctly when they with urban planning, like the sprawl. Okay, there's gonna be sprawl, there's gonna be like growth. We're gonna do it correctly. We're not gonna just let it happen to an insane degree. What is this? You guys see what I'm seeing? For me, this is like they're out of their mind crazy for. What is this? Okay, let's see the street view. See, check this out and see how it looks like. This is Afghanistan, and it's kind of looking like Afghanistan here. Which is and another thing about I looked into like Bolivia, a lot of South America. Here it's on a fault line. So there's earthquakes. Um, and recently, like the past 30 years, there hasn't been any big earthquakes. But none of these new buildings are built for earthquake proof. They're just built with like bricks. They're built like this. So apparently, and this is not me saying it. I heard this. That in South America, a lot of these are illegal buildings. The government didn't like sanction this. Some guy just showed up, built a house, and then like 20 years later, the government showed up and said, okay, well, we'll recognize this and made this road legit. It used to be just a dirt road done by the locals. And then the government just turned it after putting down a foot. They decided to like the new government decided to recognize these new. So these houses, like I said, were built without architects, without an engineer. And if there's a lot of people say, well, if there's an earthquake, like a serious earthquake that hits Peru or Bolivia, like 90% of these buildings are going down, which is funny because I get it. Like people talk about the guy that built this didn't think about that. He just like built it on breaking and without any. He probably built it with him and his family, like his sons and whatever, not realizing that hey, in 40 years if there's an earthquake, this whole thing's gonna come collapsing down. Okay, so this here's not that bad. Let's see some other slums. Hold up, how do I turn this blue area? This is crazy. What is this shape? I can't tell what this is. It's like shape from the mountain. I don't know. Like, I think this is the airport. This is a new airport they built. Not bad. I think it's not that bad, right? Hmm. Okay, let's do the man. Look at what we got here. Okay, we're in Afghanistan now. What is this? This is crazy. What is this? So this coastline of the Pacific, like I said, northern Chile to Ecuador, it has this like smoke or this like this weird haze everywhere because of like the climate. It has this like desert climate, but I forget exactly this particular name. That's why the sky here is almost always hazy. Okay, so this is what they did. I think in earthquake, a lot of these houses will be okay because they're made of like aluminum and wood and stuff, so they're flexible somewhat. But the stuff had to break, that's gonna come like that has no flexibility. It was like a Japanese style earthquake, and the whole thing starts shaking back and forth. This whole thing's coming down. Okay, so like I said, the government did not plan this out. This was all done illegally in like the last 20 years. Just people started illegally claiming land and building stuff quickly, and the government only recently said, okay, well, and it's bad because it's like, okay, you need people that need housing. Okay, the government should have in the 80s. Because what's funny about a lot of these South American countries is they had dictatorships. They had like these like strongman figures. A lot of these countries, even Bolivia, had these like dictatorships. So you had guys that said, okay, well, we have a lot of people that need housing. Let's especially dictators have this how do I start like planning, ambitious. Like, oh, okay, let's make a new city. Let's do something cool, and they just didn't. Just allowed the people to do it by themselves. And I'm gonna have to end this video. It's gonna be becoming too long. So thanks for watching. Oh wait, before I leave, I just want to check out Wellington because Wellington, New Zealand's a good example of doing something correctly. So the British, right? They showed up and they found this natural harbor, which is nice. Look, you got these mountains here, mountains over here, and you got this entrance, beautiful entrance. So harbor, very nice. And then on the south, so you got the shoreline. On the south of the shoreline, they built this Wellington, which is very small. I think the radius is like 1 kilometer. So this whole area, like this downtown, is 1 kilometer, which isn't that big as a radius. And then everything else is just suburbs. But even that's controlled. You see how this is done? We got this suburbs here, over here. But this green areas cut up. They cut this huge green area here, but especially the ones in the middle, they cut it up. So it feels like the whole area is green, and there's these islands of residential areas, right? That's how it feels. Even the residential areas, look, they're planted, they're spread apart. They're low density. That's another important thing. And then you got this isthmus here, where they built an airport, which is interesting. I think this is mountainous. That's why. Yeah, this is somewhat mountainous. So this is the airport. Let's see, check out the airport. Small little airport. New Zealand's not that big, so whatever. And this, I think from what I read, this is like the nicest area to live in New Zealand. This little area here. It's very nice and suburban, but it's old Anglo. It's not new. It's not new suburban. I'm not talking about like Texas, big mansions made out of like cardboard. These are like made out of hardwood from the forests of New Zealand and done with some class, and they have great views. Look at these homes. And these homes, up until recently, were actually nice and affordable for normal people. Now, of course, they're all luxury because of all the problems these countries are going through with bad housing or whatever. Because New Zealand has a declining population for the past 20 years. New Zealanders housing should actually be getting cheaper for a young New Zealander, right? It's actually getting more expensive because you know why I don't want to talk about it. And yeah, okay, you do have some sprawl. Like, this is green, but you have some urban centers, or not urban, sorry, suburban residential areas here. And I'm pretty sure Peter Jackson is from, where the hell is he from? I think he's from over, right here. Pukeruwa. He's from Pukeruwa Bay. He grew up here as Peter Jackson. I think this is north of Wellington. You have to cross this bridge. I think there's a bridge over here you have to cross. And so it was like an hour and a half away from Wellington City. And then the North Island looks nice. Look at this. So this is, like I said, urban planning done correctly. Also in Europe, I showed you München and Rome as examples. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about South America, and I could get into it in another video. For example, here, this is what people would think, oh, this is urban planning done correctly, right? This is a city in Argentina called La Plata, which means the silver. And people would think this is done correctly. Why? Because let's go to the other map mode. Sorry, it's gonna give me a second. Okay, you see this? Pretty sure the Spanish did this urban planning. So you have this like perfect square, and you have these parks on all the corners, and you have central area as a park with a cathedral. So this is done correctly, right? This is what you would think. What is this? This is the municipal building. Looks decent. But look at this. Look at this, guys. What is this? You would think, okay, look, it's all just laid out correctly, and they just build like crazy. Like, I get it, they planted some trees, but look. What the hell is this? So yeah, it seems like Europe 2,000 years ago did it correctly. Because Rome is planned very old. It's planned a long time ago, and look. You got the green areas, you got the river, and this has been here for thousands of years. So they could have they could have just built the potential. This whole thing could be an ocean of cement you could be looking at right now. But no, they decided, no, we're gonna make this. Look at this. This is the main downtown road. You got the Coliseum right over here. Then you got the old Roman arena over here for chariot racing. You got the river. You got some villas. This is also like a residential community here. This is like built in the 80s or something. 1950s to 1980s this was built. This area over here. This is more news like 1990s or something. And this is like a wall. This is the old wall of Rome that surrounds Rome. You can't have a good look at it, but this is inside of the city of Rome. And you look, you have all this green area.